Hi everyone and welcome back. Ori Firestone here with another Speedpaint video and character commentary. Today we are going to focus on one of the most unique and important characters in the world of classic comics and action. A legendary figure in the sense that he was one of the most significant characters in the comics world when I was a child. He is still relevant today while you are here with me as young creators. And it's very likely that he will continue to be an important character for future generations as well. Spider-Man is one of the classic action heroes who represent the traditional comic books world. You could give countless lectures about him as an action hero, as an anti-hero teenager who transforms into a hero, as one of the key symbols of the heroes in suits era that began with Superman and continued with Batman, Spider-Man and others. But in our character commentary here today, since I'm a teacher of comics drawing, character design and animation, I actually want to focus on Spider-Man from a different visual perspective, an aspect about which I talk a lot with my students in class. Spider-Man is simply an excellent character for practicing and improving drawing techniques. By the way, if you enjoyed the video and the topic, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and do all those YouTube things people do to support each other. As a kid, and later as a high school student who loved drawing, my notebook was filled with sketches of my favorite superheroes. One of the main ones was Spider-Man. Today, with a more mature and broad perspective, I try to understand what made Spider-Man such a unique and interesting character to draw. And I discovered that Spider-Man is basically a walking drawing school for dynamic action poses and body movement. When you look at Spider-Man comics, you'll notice that he's almost always in an interesting pose, a pose that can train and improve our drawing skills. Sometimes he's even sleeping in such a pose. As a teacher who illustrates anatomy tutorials for action characters and teaches classes, I'm always looking for body poses that include interesting foreshortening, dynamic movement, and added value. Spider-Man is a unique character in these aspects, even within the Marvel Universe, which is full of fascinating characters to draw. One of the things that makes Spider-Man stand out compared to other characters is that his figure looks exactly like the basic body structure you see in every drawing guide. I mean the simple skeleton you sketch first and later build the character on top of it. As you can see here, I also start by drawing the basic structure, the body line, with blue lines, and then I move on to the sketch and line up. Spider-Man's suit is tied to the body and not complicated to draw. He doesn't have a complex mask or sharp edge armor. So anyone practicing drawing Spider-Man is in fact automatically practicing figure drawing and anatomy. When I advise young artists on how to improve their figure drawing, I always tell them, choose a character that isn't too easy but also not too complicated. Choose a character that isn't too overly bulky and muscular but also not too thin and fragile. The best characters for improving comic and action figure drawing are always athletic and strong, but also flexible with long, defined muscles. And in this sense too, Spider-Man is the perfect model. We can point out clear differences between learning traditional drawing and learning drawing for comics or animation. In the classical art school approach, artists focus more on drawing still objects and static models, real-life models. That's why traditional classical drawing tends to be much more static and motionless. On the other hand, animators and comic artists are constantly engaged in telling living, dynamic stories, a superhero doing a backflip, a ninja delivering a karate kick, a cat jumping from a rooftop, and so on. The drawing style of an animator or comic book artist is usually much more dynamic and flowing, with lines that feel alive. Anyone in the industry can immediately recognize the difference. Drawing characters like Spider-Man will give you that special skill, the ability to create free-flowing lines, dynamic movements, and bring your drawings to life in motion. That's why I often choose Spider-Man as a model for teaching figure drawing to comic artists and animators, and that is exactly why I chose him for this video. If you want to learn anatomy drawing and character design for comics and animation, you are welcome to visit animationdojo.com. The link is in the description below. And if this video brought you new insights, gave you an interesting perspective or added value, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time.